Yo, what's going on, everyone? Welcome into this Monday edition of Snaps. I normally open by saying it's what I hope to be your favorite college football podcast, but unfortunately, this beautifully clean-shaven man in the middle of us may actually be your favorite college football podcast. I am T-Bob Hebert. Aaron Murray's here as well, and we are joined by the one, the only Josh Pate, Chancellor of Penn State, host of Late Kick. Josh, 247. You already, I mean, if you're listening to this show, you definitely know who we're talking about. Josh, what's up, man? Thank you so much for joining us today, dude.
The way I would do my bio, because I have no clue what's in my bio. So I would just basically say one or two things, then dude, you know the rest. I appreciate you guys having me. So let me warn you both about something and the viewing / listening audience. Normally, I like to plan a workout right after I do these sorts of things, which means you drink pre-workout. They told me to peel the label off the bottle because they don't sponsor the show. So this unnamed blue container, Aaron Murray may know what this is, by the way, because he's from Georgia. It will be consumed during our show, which means the energy level will go up and up and up. So we need to save the best stuff for the last and just lead with the most boring stuff.
Nice. Well, shit, but I wanted to lead by shitting on James Franklin for being too scared to go out there and win a big game, because for the first time this year, unless, you know, you're a Corn Hub enjoyer, of which Josh is very much in fact, I believe multiple Late Kick Josh staff members have Corn Hub merchandise. If you're a Corn Hub enjoyer, sure, you may be watching the Big Ten. Otherwise, the Big Ten just kind of happens in the background for the vast majority of the season. And we show up, we're like, oh, look at that, Michigan beat the fuck out of someone. And then we're like, oh, that's kind of impressive. Whatever. But we finally got our first battle between the triumvirate this last Saturday. Ohio State, Penn State, two all-world defenses going up against each other. But I don't know, man. Now you look up and all of a sudden, what is James Franklin? 1-8 in these games against Ohio State. I think he's 3-13 in games against top 10 opponents. And to me, the call before half in the red zone, 3rd and 6, down 7 to run the ball. So basically, I think it was an inside zone. I can't remember. I'd have to go back and watch it. But just a basic soft ass, scared ass, conservative ass run on 3rd and 6 in the red zone on a night when you just didn't have those scoring opportunities. It tells me everything I need to know about James Franklin's ceiling.
Okay. Is that a question, or do you just want me to basically
just go right off of that? You digest it and you feel it.
Am I right or wrong? Am I being overly critical here?
You're not being overly critical. No. Okay. So this is going to be a boring answer from me. It's not wrong. None of that's wrong. So we took a trip up there in the spring, and they flush all the local media out, and then they say, come on. So they let us watch practice. So I stood up on that balcony up there right outside his office. I watched practice. They tried incessantly to stress pushing the ball down the field vertically that day. They had a new transfer receiver coming in. They weren't happy with their perimeter skill as it exited spring, or as it was going to exit spring. And so I was asking a lot of the staffers, like, how do you feel about this? And they said, we got a championship caliber team. We have no clue what we're going to be on the outside. We do not know if we got pass catchers. And there's no more maybe. They just don't. They don't have that. And the Cephas kid from Kent State hasn't worked out. He's barely played. So they just you saw timidity, which is a word of the day for me. I'm trying to insert it in a sentence every day this week. You saw timidity. I think what they were was terrified at making that one mistake that goes the other way that felt like it was going to decide that game. Now, that doesn't mean what you said and how you described it is inaccurate. It just, and here's the buzz phrase of the decade, it just is what it is at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you want to go down swinging though, Josh. I mean,
I told you this yesterday, T-Bob. You also don't want to put the ball, like Josh said, you want to put the ball in guys' hands that aren't elite playmakers. Like, these were moments where you had to put the ball into your best players' hands and hope they can find a way to make a play. That's what Ohio State did with Marvin Harrison Jr. Big players step up in big games. You don't have big play guys on the outside for Penn State. You can't just force feed guys if they're not going to be able to find a way to get open. They didn't do it all day. So I want to ask you the difference with the teams.
Fuck it, and just accept that you're going to lose. You know, I mean, then what are you going to do? If you're not going to go for the win, if you're not going to, your
best players are your running backs.
You're not going to be able to overcome.
Your running backs.
Your best players are your linebackers. Like I thought they were waiting on. I thought both sides honestly felt like they were waiting on their best scoring opportunities, which were when their defenses were on the field. That's what it felt like. I was at that Ohio State Notre Dame game. That game felt the same. Both sides really, really timid. And aside from Marvin Harrison occasionally, who you can just account to get open because he's an alien, we're not really going to force it. We're going to wait on them, and hopefully they try and force it and we take advantage of it. And that really didn't happen.
Well, I mean, it almost did, though, right? I mean, if you want to defend James Franklin, like they had the moment, but it was once again the skill of Marvin Harrison that was just unlike anybody else. Oh, Maserati Marv cranking it up, drawing the holding penalty, calling back the touchdown. I still think we'll have to agree to disagree on the timidity. I get what y'all are saying. Like, you can't just force one of these receivers to be good, but you got to take a shot at some point. You got to grab your balls. You got to put yourself out there.
Josh, I want to ask you this because you were there and we always talk about like guys walking off the bus. How do they look? How did the players look? We know there's a major gap between skill guys. Ohio State's always had receivers. They've always had the quarterback guy. They have the receivers again this year, and they were even without some of their starters as well on offense. Where was Penn State dominant in your mind? Like looking at players, could you point to a position? Because Ohio State's defense is legit. Could you point to a position, say Penn State was better there watching those two teams on Saturday?
Olu Fashanu at left tackle fits in anywhere. He'd play almost anywhere, and he's got the double knee brace, Stone Cold Steve Austin thing going on, as so many offensive linemen do. He looks the part. I think their linebacker room looks the part. Their receivers, though, don't. Here's what stands out. You both know this. I don't think a lot of folks watching who haven't been around teams and seen them in person know this. When you think of receivers and you see their height weight, you see 6'1", 180. And you think, oh, there's a dude I work with who's 6'1", 180. Receivers don't look like the dude you work with. They look really big because I don't know what it is, bone density. I don't know if it's weight distribution, but 6'1", 180 for an elite future first or second round D1 athlete looks way different. They don't have guys at receiver who look like that. They look like ordinary receivers, whereas Ohio State's dudes look exactly how you think Ohio State's dudes look. But Penn State, like they don't really physically take a back seat. I remember, dude, when we were at the national title game last year and you see TCU get off the bus, that's night and day. That's like the most glaring physical. What's this high school team? Is it a field trip to go visit a college team? That's what that looked like. It doesn't look like anything like that. But if you go position unit for position unit, it's really obvious. Ohio State's got dudes who are going to play on Sunday. Penn State has dudes who are going to watch Ohio State's dudes play on Sunday one day.
Well, and let's talk then about Ohio State, because I don't want to make this all about Penn State, even though I'm a bit frustrated there. But I could go either way with my Ohio State take here, where, clearly Michigan's the big winner here because J.J. McCarthy is light years better than Kyle McCord, and Michigan's going to roll over Ohio State once again. But I do see an Ohio State defense that appears to be much improved this season. And they looked very legit. I mean, just as good as Penn State's defense on Saturday. You've won two uber important, hyper close physical games. I mean, you always haven't seen Ohio State do in the past. And so, and they've been much better. Remember what got them last year against Michigan, the big plays, right? They basically haven't given up any all year long. Do you come out of this more bullish on Ohio State as it relates to Michigan, or less or more bearish?
Much more bullish. I already was. This is just another exclamation on a point that I've expected to be able to make this year about them. And that is after the Michigan game last year, really, it was time to do a full forensic audit of your program, not your team, your program. How are we wired? And why do we look like the second most physical team against our biggest rival 2 years in a row? So then they happen to get in the playoff. But that's a game played in the 40s as well. I mean, you put 40 on the board, you still can't win because Georgia scores 1 or 2 more points than you. So then you really get into getting ready for spring. You're going to overhaul any staffers. You're going to have guys exit. You're going to bring a recruiting class in. You're going to do whatever you do in the transfer portal. I think they got really intentional after last year about never having that said about them again. Maybe they lose games, but it's not going to be because we got put on skates. There's no excuse for that. We're Ohio State. There's no excuse for that. So it just so happens that you also watch a guy like C.J. Stroud walk out the door, and you watch quarterbacks like that walk out the door, and you don't have one to put in his place. But what that does is it also backs you into a corner as a team. And in spring, if you don't have an elite quarterback, you know it. And your team knows it. Bama's players knew it coming out of spring. If we win, it's going to be because we, on this side, defensive side of the ball, we step up. And it's almost like a survivalist mentality, even going into fall camp. And this is, to me, the big takeaway about Ryan Day, as all these folks after the Michigan loss have started to call him overrated and he was born on third base and stuff like that. I look at him and I look at Lincoln Riley out on the West Coast. And I look at Lincoln Riley's inability to ever evolve anything about his program, either at Oklahoma or now at USC defensively. They're not serious about it. They can say they are, but they're not intentional about it. Whereas Ryan Day is now winning games. His program's winning games in a manner they were incapable of winning games in 2 years ago. And to me, that's the sign of like an elite coach or an elite caliber coach, where you look at a side of the ball that you don't specialize in, but you go hire right, you delegate right, and you develop right and recruit right. And all of a sudden, they've had 2 games this year they didn't score more than 20 points in, and they're 2-0 in them. And we never would have said that about them in years past.
If I give you 2 teams, Team A, grade-wise, is an A offense, B defense. Team B, A defense, B offense. Which team are you taking? Both teams obviously good enough to win a championship. Which style of football in 2023 will get it done, though? Which one would you prefer?
So I still think I would go A offense, B defense. I think that's what I would say, but this particular year, I'm looking around. If you're telling me J.J. McCarthy is the dragon I have to slay, maybe I'm wrong. And I'm not speaking ill of him, but I am saying I think we know who he is as a player. I'm not a believer that just because you come back, you get 20% better in any given year as a player. So we've seen him. We've seen Michigan against the best. We largely, I think we know the cruising altitude that they're going to fly at. I don't necessarily know. I wish this was pre-recorded so we could edit all this out, but I don't know. Maybe I would like to be a defensive-minded team.
I mean, but the problem is in this hypothetical is if you grade Michigan, is it really A offense, B defense, right? Or is the Michigan defense actually the best part of that team? And it's just that now that J.J. McCarthy is much better, that all of a sudden they become that much more of a threat because now they're more complete. Right. So like I'm not sure. And granted, to be fair, I'm doing a lot of box score watching with Michigan. Yeah. I'm not locked in or done. Like I haven't locked in. So I know all the numbers and everything. And but I'm not sure the defense isn't their best part of their team. No. In Michigan, it to me could end up being just a better version of Penn State in the sense of you got a talented quarterback, and I think a far superior quarterback. But do you believe, I'm not even questioning JJ. I may be opposite with you here, Josh. Like, I think JJ's a stud. Like, what he's done this year to me has been incredible strides from last year. But do they have the receiver talent? Like, that's the question for me. Can he win it on his own? Because they've gone against defenses that don't have the guys that can match up in the back end. Right. Ohio State seems like they can. Is JJ good enough to go against an elite defense with subpar average receivers? That's the question. So that's the thing, the $1 million question that I keep wondering. I'm never the person who says Michigan hasn't played anyone, therefore they're not good. Because if I descended the Kansas City Chiefs into high school football, they'd still be the Chiefs, even though they're playing high school teams. So just because you haven't played anyone doesn't mean you're any good. But I do wonder, that's the whole crowbar and the bicycle spokes theory. If you've got above average receiver talent going against below average DB talent and they're balling, then all of a sudden they face elite perimeter skill defensively, it doesn't slow you down. It could make you stop completely and fly over the handlebars. And then, of course, you got a couple of running backs that can get the job done. You better hope they can, because otherwise your script that's worked all year is inverted really quickly. All right, so let's move on from the Big Ten. Penn State falls, and then there were 2. I think we're probably more excited forever for Ohio State, Michigan. Do we want to do the Emmanuel Acho conversation? Yeah. Okay. I'm just making sure. So Emmanuel Acho as the pre-workout hit yet? I know you're passionate about this one. You can see it.
We jittering.
Starting to get a little juiced up. You ever drink Red Line Extreme? Don't. I did back in college one time. I think my heart almost exploded. Yeah, dude, it was insane. I remember I did one for a workout in the middle of workout. I just puked everywhere and I was just fucking killing it.
The first day I ever took pre-workout, this was back in high school, like the NO Explode days, which we called NO, because we didn't know NO was an acronym. So I took it. I maxed out on the milligram dosage. First time I've ever taken it. I'm driving to the gym in Harris County, Georgia. Deer runs out in front of me. So, I hit the brakes. I don't swerve. We don't swerve. We just hit the brakes and
smart.
Let come what may. And, you get that sudden adrenaline rush because a deer just ran out in front of you. Well, that stuff coursed through my veins so hard. So immediately, it felt like 1,000 ants bit me and my heart turned into a jackhammer. And I loved it. I was hooked from
the pre-workout nerve endings when you feel that kind of flame spreading through you. Yeah, dude, the
ears are red, the elbows are red. Oh, it's so great.
Okay, so Emmanuel Acho tweeting after Caleb Williams and USC lose. With national championship hopes gone, Caleb Williams should consider sitting out the rest of the season. The Heisman is a long shot. College football playoffs are even less likely, and he won't play in the bowl game. The risk of playing far outweighs the reward. Business decision. And I would say this. Obviously, Acho knows what he's doing, right? He has made a lot of hay with some of these takes, but like any great controversial take, it has to at least be based in some sort of logical plausibility that you can sit up here and say, well, yes, and he's not wrong, right? We're not going to care when he doesn't play the bowl game. Mm-hmm. The only thing I disagree with is when you're evaluating players to go to the NFL, it's not just their physical potential. It's attitude, it's leadership, all this stuff, especially if you're talking about taking a quarterback 1 overall. And I do think it would be a bad business decision for him to sit. Like, I think there would be GMs and others that would potentially ding him or take him off the board in a very crowded quarterback class if he was to quit on his team. So, good on Acho. This thing's up to almost like 20 million views. He did it. But I think it's a little fucking crazy.
So, I'll just go more territorial with it. I'm not even going to go from the business decision angle. I'm going to completely go selfish mode here for a second. Even if everything he was saying was valid, which it's not, it's crazy, but let's just say it was valid. Why in the world is someone who makes their living covering college football the one telling a kid not to play college football? How about that? How about, like, I made it analogous on our show last night to, if I got a buddy who is hardcore member of PETA and would never touch meat with a 10-foot pole, I'm okay with that. I love steak. I eat it every night pretty much, but I'm okay with that. But if my same buddy went and applied for a job at Morton's and walked in the kitchen and started railing against meat consumption the first day he was there, they're going to beat him over the head with whatever they have in the kitchen, as they should. Like, also, you know what this harkened me back to? Although way different a lane, is back in 2020 when we were having those debates. Should we play the season? Should we not play the season? And no one knew. Like, we're all going through it for the first time. But if I'm going to have someone tell me, no, it's crazy, it's ludicrous to play a football season, I want it to be an actual medical expert. Like, put on a white robe for me. I don't want to hear a sports writer that looks like he's crusading to get the thing that puts food on his table canceled and pulled out from under him. So that's the vibe I got from this. And the bottom line is, like, for a lot of us, college football is the center of the sporting world. That's not for everyone. That's okay. I get that. But at the same time, man, you turn an audience off so quickly by amplifying that kind of stuff and allowing that stuff amplified on your time and your dime. And I think folks learned that lesson 3 years ago, and they better be careful, or they may learn it again in a much different vein.
I want to stick on that quarterback theme real quick, because we're talking about Caleb here. And we discussed this being like one of the best quarterback classes we've seen in a decade, whatever, long. Drake struggled this year. Drake has not been the same quarterback he was last year, and you can blame new OC, you can blame difference in personnel, all that. Caleb has had moments early in the season, but has struggled the past couple weeks. Is this class as good as we were making out to be to start the season?
So now, you're the wrong person to ask this, but let's say someone who's never played the position but watches the sport or covers the sport is asking me this. My response would be, How many people out there who set the expectation level for these dudes really have a clue what they're watching at the quarterback position? Well, that's really what we're talking about. It's not like Caleb Williams, it has different DNA, or Drake May has different DNA. The reality is this is what playing sports is. It's not linear progression all the time. Hopefully over the long run, you are improving. Like hopefully you're not tanking, because that's kind of a problem. But by and large, what I think we see, and this goes back to the thing I said about JJ McCarthy, just because you return, just because you were good one year and then you come back, it doesn't automatically just mean your production is going to improve 20% or 25%. It's a falsely based expectation. So what happens is the market sets the expectation out of this world. Then the dudes don't live up to it. And instead of the market looking itself in the mirror and saying, wow, that's bad on us, they look at the player and say, shame on this player for not living up to my expectation. That's why the whole overrated term is one I shy away from, because at any given moment, the public should look you in the eye and say, well, who rated them? They didn't rate themselves. Who rated them? And then you go, oh, it was me, wasn't it?
Well, and I think I do want to highlight this, though. There's something that we were talking about on our LSU postgame on Saturday, which is, you're right. It is not automatic. It is not just a result. Oh, I'm coming back for another year. I'm going to be X% better. But it does happen sometimes. But again, it doesn't happen naturally. It doesn't happen by accident. I mean, look at Jayden Daniels. I mean, he is the perfect example of this. Many people called him a known product, right? I mean, we've had 4 years of starting experience from Winston Poll. Like, surely he's topped out and all this stuff. And it's like, well, he's in a stable environment. Blah, blah. But the point is, Brian Kelly had an answer last week that really stuck with me, where he talked about Jayden Daniels showing up at 5 a.m. in the film room every day this offseason, leaving at 8. They had to change protocols, give him full access to the building. Joe Sloan, the quarterback coach, made him like a 6-month plan. Okay, here's how you're going to get better at progressions, yada, yada. The point is, you got to do the fucking work.
Yeah.
And Daniels did the work. It didn't happen just because he came back. Now, granted, he had more things, and he has Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, and that's always going to help, and that great offensive line. But he did the work to get better. And I think players that do that should be commended, should be highlighted. Yeah.
What you need is, if you're a gambling man, if you have an average year at quarterback at LSU, you need to bet that quarterback to win the Heisman the next year. I'm just saying, like, that is the key. You have an average year at LSU junior year, you turn around senior year, you have a Heisman type season.
Hey, look, I know that's kind of jovial, but there's a lot of truth to that LSU and beyond. Probably what we're circling here, the point we're circling is the dudes who stand the best chance are the ones who know they still have a lot to prove coming into that year. That's really the bottom line. No one said Caleb Williams or Drake May had anything to prove. If anything, the number one topic of conversation is, will they stay healthy all year? Well, that's like skating on thin ice with hot blades all year. I'm not going to do a triple axel or whatever those folks do in figure skating if I'm just worried about staying healthy. If I'm worried about what Jayden Daniels was worried about, which is a GM wondering if I can go through progressions and actually work an intermediate passing game, well, that's all I'm going to be focused on. And my team is going to be better off just as a byproduct.
Yeah, I mean, look, he had such a clear area of improvement. He's done that. Where do you think he ranks on your Heisman list? Obviously, he's going to have to win some of these resume games coming out of the stretch here, but he is starting to become a bit of a statistical outlier when you look at Caleb Williams and Michael Penix starting to slow down a bit.
If they beat Alabama, I think he's going to end up winning it. When Caleb Williams had that turnover game against Notre Dame, that's really what opened it up. So until then, it was going to be his to lose. Once that happened, and then especially after the Utah game, it's fully open. I looked at these odds like 20 minutes ago. I never look at the Heisman odds. I just so happened to look at them today. And I think I saw him third. I saw Jayden Daniels right there, third or fourth, depending on which book you look at. And it's not a wide gap. And so I think the two dudes who can make just huge leaps are still Bo Nix and then Jayden Daniels. If they go and beat them in Tuscaloosa in 2 weeks, that's what won Joe Burrow the Heisman. Everyone was waiting on the Bama game. It was nothing
straight up.
It was the Bama game. And it's the same spot. They're going to have to go on the road. They're going to have to win in Tuscaloosa. If he does that, then I think he'll vault right to the top. And I don't think they have to win the SEC. As long as they don't have 4 or 5 losses in this kind of year, I don't think they have to win it this year.
Well, I think he has the best opportunity, because if you do go into Tuscaloosa and beat Alabama, and then if you do beat Georgia, who will probably be the number 1 team in the country, and he puts the stats up, then it's a wrap. Then, like, I agree, that's the best. Done and done. If he gets the job, if everyone got the job done, if JJ McCarthy got the job done, Michigan wins the Big Ten. if Michael Penix wins the Pac-12 and Jayden leads LSU to an SEC championship win over Georgia, Jayden's going to get the Heisman, even if they have 2 losses compared to an undefeated Michigan and a 1-loss Washington. That resume and those wins and his stats on top of that and running the football, 100%.
I want to talk Washington because this has been my heart and soul Pac-12 team. Picked to win it. And you win a game 15-7. You have a 3 turnover deficit. It's the second time this year where Penix has emerged touchdown less from a game. And while you got Stanford this weekend, you're going to end at USC, home Utah, at Oregon State, home versus Wazoo. That's a gauntlet. And then you'll have a Pac-12 championship if you make it through that gauntlet. Are we more or less bullish on the Huskies coming out of this Arizona State battle?
I've been taking just immense amounts of flack because I never moved them ahead of Oregon in the JP poll, which, as we know, is not my fault. It's all a model anyway. But I always laugh when these folks talk about these teams I know good and well they haven't watched. The public, the general public, has watched one Washington game this year. It was the Oregon game, and they looked incredible. They have no clue what happened in the Arizona State game the other night. They have no concept. They didn't even score an offensive touchdown. They have no idea, because I know good and well they weren't up past midnight watching it. Well, dutifully, the 3 of us did watch it. And I hear these things, these words like unstoppable. That's not an unstoppable offense. I know, because Arizona State stopped it. It's just you have to know what you're doing. You have to have things come together the right way. And they're not hanging 15 on Oregon if they play them again. They'll be up. I think they looked at their schedule, honestly. I think North Carolina may have done the same thing. And all of a sudden, you do what you can't afford to do. And they won. North Carolina didn't. But with Penix, you know what I'm just itching to see, and I don't know if we'll get it or not. I want to see Washington on the field. I would love to see them go against a Georgia. I would love to see them go against an Alabama. I would love to see them go against NFL defensive backs. That's what I'd love. I thought he played phenomenally, like threaded the needle against Oregon. I'd like to see that with 3 weeks build up. Basically all the trappings of a playoff game and all the hype and intensity and the waiting and knowing for 3 weeks, I got the biggest day of my life coming up. But first I got to go through Christmas. I got to go through all this stuff with my family. And then on the backside of it, then we'll get back to work. It does funny things to people, but if you're a real one, it brings out the best in you. And I want to see it bring out the best in him. Now, I don't know if we're going to get to see that, but at the very least, I think we'll get to see them in the Pac-12 championship game against someone of that caliber, and then come what may after that.
All right, so you're going down to Jacksonville. You'll be there for Georgia versus Florida, and for everyone listening, it is Georgia versus Florida, regardless if you went to Georgia or not. They won last year, T-Bob, so that's how you say the damn thing this year. Brock Bowers, no go for 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, however long it is.
3, 4, 5, 6 is what we're going
3,
with.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Who knows?
Indeterminate timetable.
I mean, for goodness sakes, the quarterback for Duke played in 3 weeks off a high ankle. Like, it's possible nowadays. Where is Georgia in trouble, first off? And how do you see this offense being a little bit different, possibly with Bobo?
No, I don't think they're in trouble. They're vulnerable. But they have wiggle room a little bit right now. But here's what I go back to. So when they play down at Auburn, clearly if Brock Bowers is not there, they don't win that game. There's, to me, a big difference in losing a guy, or let's say they would have lost him in the Auburn game. I don't think they would have won that game. But there's a big difference in something happening in the heat of battle versus it's happened. We got 2 weeks to build up. And in the locker room, this is the important part. It happens at quarterback sometimes. You lose a key player, but you have an entire week, or in this case, 2 weeks, to build up, and a locker room knows it's on us now. We don't get to look to this dude to bail us out. It's on us now. Sometimes, and I believe this is the culture at Georgia, there's this galvanization that happens, and dudes who otherwise have played above average all of a sudden go over the cliff, just full face in the fan mentality, and you end up saying, wow, I didn't know that X was capable of this, or Y was capable of this, or Z position group was capable of this. I think we'll get that kind of performance out of Georgia this coming Saturday. But having said that, I also think there was this real stay of execution vibe about the Florida program when they found a way to beat South Carolina. Now, the public looks and says, who cares? You beat South Carolina. Everyone is. That's right. as far as I can tell, pretty much everyone's beaten Auburn too. Georgia barely did that. So let's not have revisionist history here. There have been some vulnerable moments, certainly for both of these teams. Florida way more than Georgia. But in October, every year in college football, October, mid to late, this right here, this scaling of performance starts happening with a handful of teams, usually the good ones. And so I think I know it's going to happen with Georgia. Is it going to happen with Florida? That's what determines the outcome Saturday. But there is a very, very big reason why you've got a 2+ touchdown favorite in this game. Yeah. So the onus, however we pronounce that word, I've never been clear on it, is clearly on Billy Napier.
Well, and I was more worried. And listen, Florida is a good team. T-Bob makes fun of me because I kind of do like some of their personnel here or there that they'll probably end up being a 6-6 team when it's all said and done. I'm talking about for the next weeks after that. Missouri coming off a bye, Ole Miss going to Knoxville. Like, do you see enough time between the bye week versus Florida and then getting ready for Missouri where this offensive identity can really form, or is that too quick of a timeline?
I think someone's going to bite them. I think they're going to lose a game somewhere in there. And it's even if they've formed offensive identity, your identity is as good as the players you've got in your building. Mm-hmm. And while I'm certainly not painting them like the Penn State receiver room, I think it's fair to say we hoped for, the Ra Thomases of the world to maybe scale their performance a little bit more. We hoped for a definitive wide receiver one to establish themselves a little bit more. Is that not fair? But then again, I've had number 19, so I haven't needed that.
Well, you haven't had McConkey for 90% of the season so far.
No, shut the fuck up, Aaron. That's the thing. No. Georgia fans are going to tell you that no, Ra only didn't play well because of Bowers. You see, now that Bowers is out, now that you've removed the best offensive weapon from the team, now Ra can finally be a good football player.
No. Nothing to do with Brock. It had completely had everything to do with learning a brand new system.
Okay, sure, dude. Whatever you gotta say. I do kind of love.
So is Dom Lovett, and then now McConkey's healthy. Rosemary-Jackson's doing his thing too. Like, I'm not trying to be a Georgia homer here, but
I will say
receivers were going to be a strength.
I don't know if intention matters at this point, yes. but I do like what Josh is saying though about the idea that maybe the circumstance now that Georgia has 2 weeks forces you to find a way. It goes back to what you said about Ohio State earlier, right? They know they don't have a quarterback in spring. They have to adapt and survive. And really, if you look at I love movies, film, all that. It's like the original Jaws movie, right? Fucking animatronic shark never worked. What do? You don't show the shark. And you accidentally create a masterpiece. So maybe UJ has some Spielberg in him. We'll see. We're looking
for our AD Mitchell. That's what we're looking. They called the shark Bruce, by the way, on set. So that was their Bruce. So think about this, though.
They saved AD Mitchell for the playoffs, though. He didn't play all year. So let's just save him for the right moment.
I remember being at their spring game, and there's this one dude catching everything in sight, AD Mitchell. So then he gets hyped up over the summer, does approximately nothing the first half to 3/4 of the season. Then they get in the playoff, and it's just like the Roy Scheider moment. He's chumming the water, and all of a sudden, AD Mitchell comes up out of the water. Who's coming up out of the water against Ole Miss? Who's coming up out of the water on the road at Neyland? That's what we want to know right now.
Josh, cannot thank you enough, man. We didn't even get to OU or Texas, missed opportunities, but hey, thank you so much. Late Kick Josh, you know him, you love him. You can see those beautiful baby blues getting more and more dilated as the pre-workout kicks in. Looking good, my friend Josh. Thank you so much, man, and you have an excellent day.
I appreciate you having me, guys.
Thanks, Josh.
Have a hell of a workout. All right, quick message from DraftKings, and then we'll be right back with more snaps. NBA fans, the wait is over. Basketball is back, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, is celebrating with an unbeatable offer. Right now, new customers can score $200 instantly in bonus bets for throwing down $5 on the NBA. Win or lose, it doesn't matter. You start the season with an instant dub. And always remember, the DraftKings parlays, everyone's got a shot at even bigger basketball wins. So string together multiple bets in the same game or build a parlay across multiple games for a shot at making your payday even sweeter. Bottom line is basketball is more fun when you're in on the action. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code T-Bob, TBOB. New customers get $200 in bonus bets instantly for betting just $5. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code TBOB, TBOB. The crown is yours. All right. Hell yeah. Vito Perillo. I apologize. It's I'm sorry, Vito. Don't get mad at me. What a collab. Two of my favorite college football channels. Hell yeah. Thank you so much. Greg Hendricks, please replay that shit when the Dogs go undefeated this regular season. T-Bob can eat some crow shit. I think it's I kind of like the escalation by Greg there. Instead of eating crow, because I am such a hater, I will have to eat crow shit. Look, I will. No, not really. I'm not going to agree to do that. Look, man, don't get mad at me. Pate's the one that just said he thinks Georgia's going to lose a game. Like I've been saying, I don't think you're going to lose to the playoffs. Okay.
Wow. I was a little shocked there. I'll settle for this. Can you at least say the schedule? Can you,
Rob Thomas and he's been held back.
Can you at least say the schedule is harder than what you were kind of?
It has rounded into somewhat exciting form here. At the end, it's Florida, Mizzou, and who else? Isn't there one other kind of frisky team?
Ole Miss and Knoxville against Tennessee.
Bro, we are not. Look, Ole Miss is kind of frisky. We are not granting Ole Miss
just
any
beat your team,
any rating above kind of frisky. Yeah. LSU is the worst defense in the country. LSU's literally capable of losing any game.
Played both. Who's more frisky in your mind? Both games are in Athens, Missouri or Ole Miss. What would you pick for the?
Imagine that both games are in Athens. Story of the season. I think.
I was asked this on. I think Mizzou.
I think Mizzou is friskier because I like Mizzou's defense more. Like full stop. Actually, I don't think that's close. I think Mizzou's the bigger threat because Blake Baker in that defense is pretty damn good. Cody Schrader's run the ball way more consistently.
And they got more depth at receiver. The receivers
and that
are better.
Offensive line. Luther Burden's a beast. Yeah, I like Mizzou way more. The only problem is Mizzou already had their Georgia scare last year. You know, and it feels real. Just if you're just reading the kind of, you know, the just college football trends, how this stuff tends to work, because constantly in the run up to the game, we're going to be talking about, you know, Mizzou almost beat him. It just feels like they'll probably come out and like Georgia will like smash them at home, but we'll see. Yeah. Wunderkind Prapa says nobody in the SEC has an easy schedule ever. This year's SEC is about as easy as you're going to find. Yeah. And Georgia's managed to craft the easiest of the easy that you are going to find. Again, though, I want to give respect because it's way better than it looked at the beginning of the year. Because Ole Miss has been good, because the rise of Mizzou, that's actually exciting. I don't buy the Florida thing at all. No, I don't either.
Florida will be. I said it during the interview.
Yes.
Simmer down. Florida at the end of the season, it may look decent right now, but Florida is probably going to be a 6-6 football team. Shit. If Arkansas can figure it out with it, you know, getting rid of Enos and cutting that dead weight, maybe they lose to Arkansas and, you know, Florida's 5-7.
We didn't even talk about Dan Enos. Do you realize, so this is the craziest thing about the 7-3 game is, do you realize how bad Mississippi State's defense was? Like Mississippi State's defense, I'd have to double check this. But if I'm off, I'm not off by much. So functionally, it doesn't matter. All season long, we've talked about LSU being last in stop rate in the Power 5, right? So LSU was 65th in the Power 5 out of 65. I'm pretty sure Mississippi State was 64. Like LSU was like 120 something, and Mississippi State was like 113.
They were 11th. They're 11th, and I'm sure this is counting the 3-point game they just had. They were 11th, probably 12th in the SEC in points given up per game.
No, that's what I'm saying. They are an awful defense.
Yes.
And Dan Enos, with what we thought was maybe one of the best returning quarterbacks in the entire conference, could not do shit. And when you combine that with emailing students after the game because you're upset from your own real ass Gmail account, I mean, it was just a disaster. Enos had to go. The people demanded blood. Now it's just whether or not Arkansas can salvage something here down the stretch, which I thought would have started this last weekend.
I would have too.
Now, obviously.
And you have a backup quarterback playing for Mississippi State too, a running backup quarterback. It just shows you. I mean, we talked about the quarterbacks and we're talking with Josh about how some quarterbacks have elevated this year and how some have gone down from last year. the ones that have elevated, Jayden, look at what he returns at the receiving position, how good those guys are. Look at Brady Cook at Missouri, what he's returned at the receiving position, how good those guys have been, and the addition of Theo Weiss. USC lost some guys. UNC lost some guys. And then Arkansas lost their guys too, and have a bunch of just random ass transfer guys that have, most of them have never even played major college football before. Like, the importance of having, like, I've always thought of a quarterback will elevate those guys' game.
Yeah.
In today's world, it's a little bit more hand in hand. Like, these receivers are so electric. If you can throw a bubble pass to a receiver and that guy take it for 60, 70 yards, once again, which is what Alabama's been missing for the past 2 or 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys dictate a game so much. Ask Ohio State what they did with Marvin Harrison Jr. Game changers, man.
That was the obvious. I mean, that's just a clear, like, that's the clearest cut case you can make. Also, I mean, look at Burton with Milroe, right? Like, when Alabama is having success, it mainly all flows through Jermaine Burton just winning his battle and Milroe finding him. I still think the elite quarterbacks are capable of raising everyone else. But if you are a good quarterback or an average quarterback, like Kyle McCord's not bad, but Kyle McCord's not elite. He's probably a good quarterback right now, but Marvin Harrison Jr. makes his game a million times better and a million times easier. So no doubt in the current, it's why you see guys getting paid in the NFL now too, right? You used to never want to pay that position, and now you do, because it's a position that is appreciating in value for whatever reason. Aaron, who's in more trouble right now, OU or Texas? So OU having a battle with UCF, comes down to a 2-point conversion. Texas up 21-0 against Houston before watching that lead evaporate and really coming down to the very end. Quinn Ewers AC joint sprain to his throwing shoulder, going to be out for some time.
I'm more worried about Texas. Texas.
Why is that?
You don't have your quarterback. And you look at their schedule, and there's a team in 2 weeks in Kansas State that's playing good football right now. That's playing good football. Like, that is a worry for me. You look at Kansas State over the past 2 weeks, dominated TCU, not a good football team this year, but still dominated them 41-3. And then took it on the road at Texas Tech 38-21. So all of a sudden you've had some close games for Texas. That's a couple now. And you're without your star quarterback for who knows how long. And the problem is, like, you can't slip up again for Texas. That's why I'm more concerned. Like, if Oklahoma drops one, but still goes to the Big 12 championship and wins that most likely versus Texas, like, they're probably still going to be in the playoffs at 12-1. Texas, the margin of errors, you can't lose another game. Doesn't matter if it's in the regular season, or doesn't matter if even if you do beat Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship game, you lose one more, you ain't going to the playoffs. And now you're without your quarterback for 2 or 3 weeks.
Oklahoma does have, though, a tougher schedule from here on out. I mean, you look at Texas' schedule. This is relative cake. You mentioned Kansas State, but you get them at home.
That's the one, though. Yeah.
No, I know. But you get BYU at home this week.
Another game, though. That's
no. I know. But then you go at TCU, at Iowa State, home against Texas Tech. Like, even with a backup, Texas should win those games. At Kansas for Oklahoma this weekend, then at Oklahoma State, then home versus a West Virginia team that is not great, but has been far better than anybody expected. And they round out with BYU. That's a tough 3-game stretch right there for Oklahoma, especially after looking a little fallible at home against this UCF team. So I think maybe I'm more worried about Oklahoma, but I do get your point of, well, I guess this is how I'd frame it. I'm more worried about Oklahoma. I think it's more likely that they lose a game rather than Texas lose a game. But to your overall point, that actually functionally won't matter. Even if they lose one, because they'll still go to the Big 12 championship, and we'll have the rematch that everybody's been hyping up all year long anyway.
You know what's crazy to think about right now? If Oklahoma or Texas loses one of those games, comes back, beats Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship game.
Yeah, they eliminate the Big 12 in the playoffs.
Ohio State, eliminate Ohio State by winning this weekend can do exactly what they did last season. They can still afford to lose that game in Ann Arbor and still get in the playoffs as number 4 seed. If that happens, they're in a good spot right now.
Let's think, though.
They're in a good spot right now.
But in theory, the Pac-12 and ACC should also produce viable candidates this year. Unless Florida State fucks it up, which is entirely possible, and unless the Pac-12 cannibalizes itself. But I think will get candidates out of both those conferences. And I would say no matter what the SEC champion's in, like let's, to go full homer, let's say LSU wins it with 2 losses. I think you put a conference champion 2-loss LSU in over a 1-loss non-conference champion Ohio State.
Nope.
That's fucking crazy then. Then why are you playing football?
Not good enough this year for that. SEC is not good enough for that this year. And I think a little bit has to do with if Ohio State goes in there and makes it competitive and loses a close game on the road, I would put them over a 2-loss LSU team.
Yeah, I mean, what? But okay, but hold on. But then what happens to Georgia? Because in this scenario, Georgia probably would have lost in the SEC championship. They have 1 loss in the year. Yeah, I guess their schedule's not going to be good enough to. No.
Ohio State has wins versus Notre Dame and Penn State.
This is true. If Kansas State beats Texas, they would move ahead of Texas for passageway to the Big 12 championship, and Kansas State should probably win out against Houston, Baylor, Kansas, and Iowa State otherwise. So yeah, Kansas State actually sneakily in a good position now that the season's starting to take shape. Yeah, a lot of football. And that's why I don't even want to go too far down that playoff hypothetical road, because it never plays out like you think it's going to. I mean, look at this last Saturday. Like we mentioned on Sunday's recap show, a classic survive and advance Saturday where you saw some contenders fall and other ones survive, which is why I'm not coming in here and shitting on OU or Texas for playing close. I'm not shitting on Washington for playing close, because these games happen, and what separates the champions is who finds a way to win. Who finds a way to win when your all Heisman quarterback Michael Penix Jr. can't do shit and is turning the ball over, right? Like I actually think there's something to be said.
I think this is a season of like all that matters. Like style points don't for the winning team. Style points don't mean a damn thing to me. It's just every week is that survive, advance, survive, advance, survive. The margin is so thin this year from good football teams to the next level to maybe even a couple of elite teams. Like there's 15, 20 teams that could beat each other on a given Saturday. Just win the damn game and move on. Just win the damn thing.
Wunderkind Propa says shit on USC some more. I don't want to kick South Carolina while they're down. It's been rough for Rattler and them. Oh, you mean SC. No, look, I just man, Lincoln Riley's really done damage to his reputation. I mean, I don't know that there's ever been a coach that has as much resume success that is having so much shit talked about him than Lincoln Riley. I mean, this is a cat who, if you just looked at his resume, all the Heismans, the unreal winning percentage, the conference championships, the playoff appearances, like these are resumes that 99.9% of coaches would kill for. And yet, like my producer on my morning show this morning is calling him stupid. And I'm like, hold up now. Like, how do you get off?
Are people still saying that about Ryan Day, though? Ryan Day's the same thing. I was about to say
Ryan Day's one of the others.
Day's the same thing.
But he doesn't have the glaring weakness that Lincoln Riley has. I mean, you just heard Josh.
He did until this year. That's the big difference.
No, because even the defense was better last year. The defense was improving. USC,
they were better because the competition they played. They were still got exposed in games where they had to actually play defense.
I mean, Lincoln just refuses to fix the defense. He refuses to address the Alex Grinch problem. And now he's like not making players available for the media. He got that one like kid beat writer suspended earlier this year. He's just kind of coming off like a little bitch. He said that the media's putting too much pressure on his team. He also said that it's not about wins and losses.
As your starting quarterback is on at least 50 commercials every single Saturday.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what are we talking? And it's not about wins and losses. Then why do we pay you $10 million a year?
Yeah, come on.
I thought that's literally what it was all about. So I don't know, man. I just think it's a really disappointing time to be a USC fan, given that you were like, again,
thank goodness the Big Ten got Washington and Oregon to commit to coming over, because all of a sudden SEC looked like they're going to be flexing because they got Texas and Oklahoma and they're kicking butt right now. And UCLA is a good team. Like, I'm not going to throw it, but they ain't like a big brand mover right now when it comes to football. USC was the big get, and it ain't looking like that's as of right now like this super sexy get.
No. I mean, still,
it's still a big brand. I get it.
It still is.
You have a coach that just can't get it done, though. Like, it's not like Texas or Oklahoma look like they are getting it done.
it's just weird that you would have such a glaring weakness and be so prideful to think that like I can keep doing the same thing and this weakness is just going to fix itself. Because obviously that is just not the case. I mean, a great point by A Barge in here. Is it time to bring Cornhuff back? Nebraska could sneak into the Big Ten championship. Again, won't, but could. I mean, with the Iowa loss, which honestly should never happen, that fair catch call was just an absolute tragedy.
No, it wasn't.
A high crime.
He waved his hand. He waved his hand.
He waved his teammate horizontally to clear out from the ball. What the fuck are you talking about? You think that was a fair catch?
By the letter of the law. By the letter of the law, he was signaling a fair catch.
You're such a nerd. You're such a nerd. Why don't you go narc on somebody else, nerd? Okay, I'm trying to smoke cigarettes behind the dumpster.
I'm not like it sucks. I get it. Like I know what he was trying to do, but when it comes to officiating, man, it's such a gray area that you're living in right there when you're doing this. I mean, how many times have you seen a guy field a punt where he's running up and doesn't have time to really get above his head? He just goes like this real quick. Like, I've seen enough of those where it gets really tough for a ref.
Yeah, no, you're right. The cover team definitely stopped. Like he called fair catch too. Like it was so obvious that the cover team they were like, oh, we better throttle down so we don't get a penalty, right?
Yeah, just enough. All it takes is a split second.
Let me suck my teeth at you real quick.
Just split second. That's all it takes.
Okay, look, from where I sit, Nebraska doesn't quite control their own destiny because Minnesota's ahead of them now at 2-2 of the tie. But the other teams ahead of them, Iowa and Wisconsin, are on the Nebraska schedule. So the Huskers could pull it off. The dairy rate don't look impressive. Iowa, I mean, Nebraska loves the Iowa matchup right now. Both teams want to play great defense. That game will be 6-3. Okay.
Do they like the Maryland matchup, though? Do they like the Maryland matchup?
Who? Nebraska?
Yeah.
Ooh, I mean, it's at home. You know?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, no, to be clear, I don't think Nebraska's going to win out. Let's not get crazy. I'm just saying, technically, outside of Minnesota, they control their ability to reach over the other two. Do not call me a Virginia Slim guy. That's a ridiculous thing to say. Wunderkind Propa. I'm an American Spirit guy. Spirit Golds. And again, never regularly, only one heater per quarter during the LSU game. That's the system. Okay. We cannot allow ourselves to smoke regularly because it's not good for us, even though we love it. Ooh, LSU Bama kickoff time announced at 6:45 Central. Let's go.
CBS didn't get it.
It's probably the doubleheader.
6:45.
Right. That'd be 7:45 your time.
You want to do top 10?
Do we have time for top 10? I don't think we have time.
10. We have top 10.
Come on, let's go. Quick? Okay.
Let's do top 10 real quick. Was that you just wanting to push off because you weren't ready to do your top 10?
No, I never do any like prep for the top 10 anyway. I just look at the AP top 25 and feel it out. I just know that you're going to do some stupid shit like try to put like Oklahoma #1 again, even though I told you not to last week.
Oh yeah, that was totally me.
That was actually totally you. Check the tape.
No, that was totally you.
No. I wanted to move. Did I want to move Washington to 1 or like Florida State or something?
Another stupid shit. No, you wanted to move Oklahoma 2 weeks ago to 1, and I was saying we can't take them off 1 after them having a bye week because Texas was a better win than Oregon.
No, but we could though.
But you want to take them off 1 for Washington.
Yeah, exactly. No. We could have done it.
I'm going to put my.
Doesn't matter. It's not like either one looked very good.
No, enough of the BS.
No,
I don't care who they've played.
I don't want to do it.
I don't care who they've played. Michigan is clearly the best team in America. Michigan is the #1 team in America. Can you
actually? I thought you were going to say Georgia. I do kind of agree with that a little bit.
Thank you.
I do kind of agree with that a little bit.
I'm putting Michigan.
I feel like I don't want to reward them.
We keep trying to fight it because we don't want. Yes, we don't want to reward them, but Michigan is clearly the best team in America.
Also, I feel like this just means that we have to hitch Georgia up there at 2 because we've had them in tandem the entire year.
We've had fun with it, but we just have to admit these are the two best teams.
But you really believe Georgia's the second best team in the country? You really believe that?
I do. I think we've seen enough flaws from the other teams where just because they've had a better resume doesn't mean they're the better football team.
Michael Campbell, where's the Notre Dame hate now? Coach Freeman has 2 top 10 wins in 2 years, but he's constantly getting the inexperience narrative for any loss. Where's the energy for the wins? I think Freeman's great, dude.
Yeah.
I really like, look at Notre Dame's defense. The big question for Notre Dame going forward is just going to be replacing Sam Hartman. Like, can you manage to get good quarterback play year in and year out?
Receivers. It's like Penn State. Can you get skill? Like you need.
Yeah, that's true.
Like that is, I think, coming to this more and more. We said it 20 minutes ago. Receivers are the game changers in today's game. Look at the Miami Dolphins and what they did this year. What they do for Tua? They brought in Tyreek and all these other receivers, and now they're kicking butt. Like,
yeah,
you need that.
Look at
position.
AJ Brown for the Eagles. AJ Brown's on pace for 2,000 yards.
Yes. Penn State don't got him. Notre Dame don't got him. You got supposedly stud quarterbacks, and you're struggling.
I also think for Michael, if you're wondering why Notre Dame's not being hyped more after the USC win, it's because you already caught the 2 losses, and it sucks, but it kind of is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have a conference championship to play for, and nobody's calling you a playoff team. Mm-mm. So you're still fun to watch. You're still a damn good football team, obviously, but you're going to struggle to get the national coverage that it sounds like you're kind of.
That's the problem when you're not in the conference. As soon as you're out of the playoff race, people don't care what you do. I mean, they're excited if you knock someone else out, but like.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's why they got love, because they knocked off USC, but nobody's going to go out there and be like, oh, look how good. But, if I'm a Notre Dame fan, I believe in Marcus Freeman. Let's be clear about that. All right. Okay. So we'll go Michigan 1. I guess we got to go Georgia 2, then
Ohio State 3.
Ohio State 3.
Wins versus Notre Dame and Penn State.
Yeah.
Probably the best resume, and they look the part. Told you this.
I do like
Ohio State
resume as
Ohio State is a quarterback.
Ohio
State's a quarterback away from being the best team in the country.
Well, okay. I'm 6 inches away from being a porn star. I don't know what the fuck that means. Like, what are you talking about? Like, how many teams are just a core? Like, hey, what if you took an All-American quarterback and put him on the team? How good would they be? Like,
not every team is like that. You can't say that. No.
But there's a lot.
They're a top.
I think Florida State should be ahead of Ohio State. I trust them more. I love the way they finish games, and I like their resume with the Duke win. I think more than Ohio State, LSU, Duke, and Clemson. Okay, Florida State 3, Ohio State 4, Washington or Oklahoma at 5?
Washington, Oklahoma at 5. I'm gonna go Oklahoma. Still, the win over Texas to me puts it over the top.
Okay. So Oklahoma 5. Really? No way. We just spent a whole time talking about weapons. Who has the best weapons in the country on the outside? Washington. Washington is the clear number 5. I'm not playing this game with you again this week.
Fine.
Washington 5, Oklahoma 6. And then this is where you can take over and do whatever, like stupid Texas jerking off you want to do is, or whatever you want to
do. We're at 7 right now.
Prez, Riley Leonard did play. Did Riley Leonard end up going out in that fourth quarter? Yes, and it absolutely sucks. But look at how Florida State's finished games. 31-7 run against LSU, 24-7 run against Clemson, 21-0 run against Duke. You got to kill Florida State to put them out. All right, who we put in at 7?
7 Texas, 8 Alabama.
Okay. I'm down for that. 9 Oregon.
9 Oregon.
10 Utah.
No, just because you played an awful defense.
Mizzou, yeah.
You're kicking Penn State out of 10? No Penn State at 10?
I just think, like, it's sad because Penn State probably deserves to be 10, but it doesn't matter. They're not going to factor into the postseason at all. They'll be in, like, the Rose Bowl or something, I'm sure.
I'm putting LSU at 10.
What? No.
Yeah.
No. We can't.
Yes, we can.
We can't do that.
Yes, we can.
We can't do that.
There's the best offense in the country. The defense is improving. Penn State can't score points against a good defense.
No, I don't want to put Penn State there either, to be fair.
Who are you going to put there? LSU beat Missouri. I'm not putting Utah there because they beat a crappy USC team.
Ole Miss beat LSU, though. Oregon State? Maybe give Oregon State some love? In 6-1, all they're doing is winning.
I think LSU's a better team. I still think LSU's is going to possibly win the SEC championship game. I just have a feeling.
I love seeing this out of you, but all right. We got to wrap up. What are we going to do at 10? Chat, what should we do? Make a final call here. I'm going to go. I think my final vote, just because it's fun. I'm going to go with Oregon State.
Okay, let's go to Oregon State.
All right, Oregon State at 10. There you go. That'll do it for today's Snap. Huge thank you to everybody hanging out with us in chat. Yeah, James Madison at 10. There we go. Thank you to everybody for hanging out with us. Huge shout out to Josh Pate for coming on today and basically doing the whole show. That was a ton of fun. Massive thank you to Pat Gunther, Ryan Brumley, Danny Cardenas, Chris Tran, Christian Hunter, Adam Gracia, although only really Chris and the others out of that, not PG or Brumley. They're on vacation and paternity leave, so fuck them. All right. Y'all have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow for some new snaps. Subscribe, like, all that stuff.